Hello and welcome to this month's episode of Pro Spotlight, where we feature our tax pros, the people that keep Taxfyle running. I'm Christian Ortega, and on this episode we have Kevin Garcia, who lives in Denver, Colorado. Kevin, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Christian.
So, Kevin, how long have you been an accountant?
I've been an accountant for going on 12 years now.
When you were deciding what you wanted to do with your career, what were the aspects about accounting that you felt natural with and that you would be, talented at?
I mean, I've been pretty good with math my whole life. It's something that came easy. And obviously, I love sports and sports teams. So being a big Yankees fan and all that, I would always keep track of their payroll and sports salaries and attendance and all that stuff. And so being able to kind of make those calculations and crunch those numbers came easy. And so when I was kind of deciding on a major, I said, hey, well, I'm pretty good at math, and the math side of things kind of interests me. I love sports and I love, crunching their salaries and contracts and all that. So I decided to give accounting a try. And then from there, the rest is history. Came pretty easy and understood it very well. And debits and credits, make sense.
When did you start keeping track of players' salaries?
Wow. I'm going to say I was probably 12 years old. And I mean, I would even, I'd look at the newspaper and look at the box scores and see what the attendance is and all that, and kind of keep track. So very, very middle school, 12 years old, and ever since then, obviously, sports is a big business now and it's growing, and now that gets talked about more. But, back then that wasn't a very big thing, but yeah, almost my whole life.
What made you start doing that? What was it that gave you the edge to figure out, how the Yankees payroll is balancing with their books?
Man, everybody would talk about how the Yankees were the big team spending money, and you start seeing these outrageous contracts and them just spending money left and right. So being a Yankees fan, I was like, oh, I want to keep track of it. And so, it kind of went from there. But obviously, the Yankees are that team that was always spending money to win championships. And just, hearing that, I kind of started following things a lot closer.
So you go from being involved with accounting and finances at an early age, and then naturally you get your college degree in accounting, you move on. What has your career been like up until now?
Originally, so for the first 10 years of my career, it was hospitality related. I worked for Marriott and came up through the ranks. I started out as an hourly accountant and got promoted to a senior assistant director, and, worked my way up the finance and accounting discipline there. During COVID, I was furloughed. So I took, I had a master's degree, and I decided to just study for the CPA exam and get that license just to be able to give myself more options as far as my career went. And so I was furloughed for about 6 months and was able to get my CPA license passed all 4 parts on the first try. And then I paused and said, well, I think I might have more opportunities and more freedom. In hospitality at that moment in time, especially hotels with COVID, wasn't looking too great, right? Hotels closing down, getting sold, made me really reassess where I wanted to be. So I got the license, and then I moved to a restaurant group, did that for a year. And it was an easy transition from hotels to restaurants, as I did oversee, a lot of the restaurant and banquet operations in Marriott. But, I decided to give doing taxes a try, right? I've been doing taxes for about 10 years, but, just had a small set of clients and wasn't really pushing that too hard as far as getting clients. And then I decided, hey, let's see what I could do as far as, doing taxes as far as a side hustle goes.
And now that you've had more experience with taxes and you've shifted to this new phase of your career, what is it about taxes that you appreciate most compared to when you were working in hospitality?
I love the fact that it's changing from year to year. Obviously, when COVID happened, the CARES Act kind of changed, what taxes look like for a couple years. And now there's the Secure Act that got passed not recently, or not long ago, sorry. And that's going to create a lot of, tax opportunities over the next, 3 to 5 years. Tax law is constantly changing and is always evolving. So it's something that's dynamic and you have to be able to keep up with. Otherwise, you'll get left behind.
How did you hear about Taxfyle?
So I'm an FIU alum, and I keep track of, articles and things like that regarding FIU alums. I saw an article, I think on USA Today or something, about the CEO of Taxfyle, Richard. And I saw, okay, he's an FIU person. I happened to I get an email blast about Taxfyle, and then I happened to Google tax freelance jobs, and Taxfyle was one of the first things to pop up in Google. So pretty much, by chance, I mean, the name rang a bell. And so when I saw Taxfyle again, I was like, oh yeah, I did read an article, about the CEO, and from there kind of connected the dots.
So, how do you balance being a Taxfyle Pro with your career?
The beautiful part is that you can take on as much work as you want. You can kind of control, you can open the tap or close the tap whenever needed. So if I have other things going on, I mean, I'll kind of scale back what I'm doing, or if I don't have a lot going on, then I'm actively looking to, take on more work. But pretty much it's kind of just a tap, and I open it and close it as needed.
So, how does Taxfyle help with your career goals?
It gives me a lot of flexibility. I mean, I'm in charge of my own outcome, right? I don't have to go out and acquire clients, which that can be expensive, right? I can just sit there and the clients kind of come to me. So you don't have to be out there in a business development role. And also it lets you kind of specialize and get exposure to all kinds of different types of clients and opportunities. And so you can decide what you really want your niche to be. But ultimately, you don't have to pay to acquire the clients. The clients coming through the door, it handles the billing. You don't have to collect or chase customers down for payments. So it kind of eliminates one part or hassle of running your own accounting business, so you can focus on what really matters more, whether it's studying, right, or doing CPE, or, reading tax laws, or just, staying up to date and informed, or actually handling client returns and doing the work.
What do you do to balance working as a Taxfyle Pro and with your firm?
That's a good question. The balance is obviously I set limits, right, onto how much I want to work, and from there, time management. I keep an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm keeping a tracking of what needs to be done. And as I pick up jobs, I kind of assign it a number in the queue, and I'm kind of working through it, and it becomes a living, breathing document of what to do. And I can start to see when the list starts getting long, and it also helps me prioritize, right? If I got to flag something or pause it for a second and kind of just move it to the back of the line while I wait on something, then it allows me to kind of stay on top and manage, the priorities, and keep a running list, to kind of get it on a first in, first out basis.
How has tax season been?
Tax season's been really good. This is my second year, so I learned a lot last year. It's been a lot more efficient and a lot less friction. And, obviously, the longer you do it and the more you're here, you'll start figuring out better processes and things like that. So this year I'm at a point where I'm batching things. So I'll wait till the end of the day to transmit returns, as opposed to kind of doing it in the moment as clients are uploading documents and getting that back to me. So it's, so far so good.
How do you find a work-life balance during the busy season?
I set a hard stop, whether it's I'm going to have dinner at X time, or I want to, watch an hour of TV to hang out or spend time with my girlfriend. On weekends, if I say, hey, I'm only going to work X amount of hours, and then go to a brewery, I place hard stops. And so obviously my goal is to, have dinner around 6 or 7 every night, hang out, play with my dog, and do those things. So I use that to keep me grounded as milestones.
What's your favorite way to detach from the hectic tax season and, unwind and kind of mellow out?
Are we talking during tax season or after tax season?
Yeah, during tax season, right now when everything's busy and crazy.
I would honestly say it's going out to eat to a restaurant, a date night once a week, or sports. So last week, I went to a hockey game. The Avalanche played the Tampa Bay Lightning. And so that was fun. So I have those little things built into where you have to disconnect, leave the house, and not stay plugged in all the time. So definitely sports, and going out to eat in a good restaurant would get me excited.
Kevin, what are ways that people can benefit from using a tax professional instead of filing taxes of their own?
You can absolutely avoid some mistakes when filling out, when preparing your own tax return, right? A lot of it is a question and answer interview style format, but if you don't understand something, or you check a wrong box, you might potentially end up getting a wrong number. A common one is if you don't answer the questions for the American Opportunity Act. Maybe a non-sophisticated tax filer might think when it says, has the credit been claimed, less than 4 years, maybe the person's taken 6 years to get their, 4-year degree, and they might answer no, but in reality, they've taken it, 4 years already. So it's those little nuances there where potentially can cost you, if done incorrectly. So working with a tax professional, they know the details, right? And they'll go over everything with a fine tooth comb, and you can avoid some mistakes like that. That could potentially, cause you to owe money at the end and then, get charged with interest for that balance by the IRS. So using the expertise and, the devil's in the details, as they say.
What are some tax tips that you have for the average filer?
I would say keep good records. If you can, digitize your receipts, do that. There's a lot of apps for that now, whether you use Adobe Scan to take a picture and snap it. Stay organized and don't be afraid to ask questions, right? When you're working with a tax professional, they know everything, but use it as an opportunity to learn and to be taught by the tax professional you're working with, so that at the end of the day, you can own your taxes at the end of the day, instead of just saying, all right, I give all my paperwork and all my information to the tax preparer and I let them do it. You become more active, or proactive, should I say, and hands-on and involved with it.
With tax season ending this month, what should filers that haven't submitted their return know?
If you haven't had a chance to prepare your taxes, you can file an extension that'll take you all the way out to either September or October, depending on the type of tax return you're filing. And it'll give you more time to gather all your documents and get everything in order and file it correctly. If you're not able to, don't rush and file it just to get it filed. You can take advantage of the extensions and obviously, do it with caution and be very careful and diligent when preparing your taxes. And also, again, that won't keep you from paying, that won't stop you from having to make the required payments, but it gives you more time to prepare everything and get everything organized so you can file your taxes. So
From start to finish, what experience do you provide customers on Taxfyle with?
at the beginning, it's kind of just do you have any questions I can answer? Obviously, as the job gets started, right? A lot of people don't know tax, don't understand tax, and maybe there's some misconceptions or things that they don't fully grasp, but it's also an opportunity to sit and kind of become an advisor and help them better understand their taxes and then be able to tax plan. As you're preparing your taxes, there's things you learn, or maybe there's credits that they may be eligible for, and it's an opportunity to say, hey, if you do this, you might be able to save a little bit of money on your taxes. Have you thought about maybe making this investment? For example, business owners, that they can make an investment in equipment or something like that, and you could take the bonus depreciation in the year, right? So if you're looking at maybe, getting new computers for the office or something like that, it gives you an immediate tax benefit with the bonus depreciation. So it's helping them be able to minimize the amount of taxes they pay and take advantage of some very lucrative tax credits, whether it's, a tax credit for putting a car, a EV car charger at home or other things like that, right? Energy improvements to the house. I mean, there's a lot of ways where you can absolutely benefit from tax credits.
About how long do you typically take, or how much time do you prefer taking going through a person's return on Taxfyle?
I mean, it could take, the standard's probably a week. Again, if it's a client that's very responsive, is uploading documents and is constantly checking in, I mean, you can get it done in a matter of a couple of days. But if it requires some follow up and things to track down, right, or documents or questions that need to be answered, it could take around about a week to get it done. But usually, if you have someone very good, within 3 to 5 days, I mean, it should be knocked out if most of the information is provided.
What do you like about being one of the pros that does outsourcing work for other firms in the country?
You get access to some pretty cool tax programs that maybe the sole proprietor, the individual tax preparer, doesn't get access to. You get to see some of their processes and how they do things, and get to learn some best practices. And obviously, it gets you exposure to maybe some clients that you wouldn't see, on your own, right? Because they do a certain amount of revenue, or, complex businesses with operations in multiple states. So it really gives you exposure to, the type of clients that maybe you wouldn't normally have on your own.
How do you help out firms when you're working with them?
I mean, pretty much just being proactive, right? And asking questions and really adding value and being an advisor to the firm. So going the extra mile and going above and beyond than just, either preparing the tax return or reviewing it, but, asking questions and being engaged with the point of contact at the firm that you're working with.
From the perspective of a pro, what value do firms have by using Taxfyle's outsourcing service and having somebody like you plug in and work with them?
Well, they could have a distributed workforce, right? That doesn't necessarily have to be in the office. It gives them staffing flexibility as well to be able to, add talent as needed to be able to handle, busy season or, the peaks of their business. It also allows them to free up some of their staff. I mean, a lot of firms are dealing with, losing talent, right? And so they're treading water and trying to get the work done, and they can barely keep up with the level, with the work as it comes in. And so it'll help them be able to move the business forward and stay ahead instead of having to battle what a lot of, companies are dealing with, which is a supply issue, right? When it comes to having good talent.
How comfortably are you able to integrate with a firm once you are matched with them?
Pretty easily, honestly. I mean, a lot of these firms, again, have good, top processes, and they're world-class organizations, right? From the tools they offer, right? As far as the software to their tech stack, to being able to, connect remotely to, their support, right? They have support desks and things like that if you're having issues. So really it's pretty seamless. I mean, it may take you, one or two returns to get familiar because every firm may have different processes or they like things done a certain way. But once you get that out of the way, I mean, it becomes pretty easy, right? It's a standardized process. They could hand you a document that recaps their processes, how they do things, how they name, their documents and how they prepare everything. So it's pretty seamless. You just gotta put a little bit of time into it, right, to get caught up and get up to speed, and then from there, I mean, it's pretty frictionless, I would say.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you having the time to talk with me and letting us know a little bit more about you and what makes you tick and your experience being a Taxfyle Pro. That was this month's episode of Pro Spotlight. Please be sure to subscribe and follow on social media for helpful tips, whether you run your own firm, are an accountant, or just want to know a little bit more about how to file taxes. Check out our blog at taxfile.com.